Welcome to the Encore Effect, the podcast where music takes center stage in life's second act. Brought to you by Encore Creativity, America's largest choral organization for adults 55 and older. This inspiring series celebrates the transformative power of music, community, and creativity in the later years of life. Each episode will share moving personal stories from encore singers across the country and dive into fascinating conversations with experts in neuroscience, gerontology, and the arts. Discover how choral singing is boosting brain health, improving well-being, and lighting up the lives of thousands of older adults nationwide. From retirees finding their voice for the first time, to the science behind why doctors are prescribing music for the mind, the Encore Effect proves that creativity is endless. Join us and let the music move you.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome back to the Encore Effect. This is such a wonderful opportunity for us at Encore Creativity to have conversations with all of the wonderful people who are involved, from partners to funders to researchers to singers to conductors. So many people make the wonderful work of Encore happen. And today I'm excited to talk to one of my friends and also a longtime singer at Encore Creativity and someone that everyone just loves at our organization. Our guest today is DeDe Pruett, though most people know her as DeDe. A Minnesota girl born and raised, DeDe's life took her on quite a journey before she found her way back home. She attended Catholic schools from grade school all the way through college at St. Catherine University, now the largest women's undergraduate program in the country, and later earned her graduate degree from the University of Hawaii. A salutatorian, Phi Beta Kappa honoree, and a proud member of not one, but two academic honor societies, you could say DeDe has always loved to learn. She married a career Navy officer, which meant adventure came with the territory. Together, they lived everywhere from coastal Maine and Newport, Rhode Island to Hawaii and Vienna, Virginia. DeDe spent 13 years as a public librarian at Fairfax County Public Library before they eventually retired back to Minnesota, which led her in a roundabout way to Encore. Music has always been a thread running through DeDe's life. She learned piano from a teenager across the alley and took lessons all 4 years of high school. But what she truly loved, though she might not have recognized it at the time, was choral singing. Back in grade school, she sang at Latin Mass every weekday and would volunteer for weddings and funerals on weekends too. She was the happiest singing with a groove. Then life moved on, and for a long time that chapter closed until she met Encore. Please welcome DeDe Pruett. Hi, DeDe.
Hi, Joshua. It's good to talk to you.
It's so good to talk to you. How's the weather in Minnesota?
Still cold. It was 29 this morning when I woke up. From here on up, it's supposed to go warmer and warmer gradually. This is May in Minnesota.
And you live for the summers, though, right? The summers are just so lovely and beautiful.
And for me, the seasons, you appreciate each one because of the contrasts.
Yeah, from crazy snow to, oh, look, the flowers are blooming, to we get a little bit of warm weather to crazy snow, right?
Yep.
Being from Florida, I didn't know anything about seasons until I moved to Washington, D.C. because we have one season, it's hot, right? Where you get like January, which is cool. But so we were chatting earlier, DeDe, you have been singing with Encore since 2010, so 16 years. So
Yes.
You've been with the organization for almost as long as it's been around. We started in 2007. What has kept you, you're not in a place that has an ongoing existing Encore ensemble, but you go on trips and camps and online rehearsals. What has kept you connected to Encore through all these years?
Oh my gosh. Well, two things. The singing, of course, and all the friendships I've made. I live now in a small town about 40 miles northwest of Minneapolis. So it's country living, small town living. But then I get together with my encore people, and over the years, I have more and more friends and living very different lives and totally fascinating people. So those two things have kept me going.
And you've met people literally from all over the world, right? Through your time with Encore.
Yes, that is true. And very, you know, everybody from, a new singer who's very scared to an accomplished singer who's been singing his life, and and then there are other lives besides that. You know, people, neuroscientists, and oh, I can't even go on. Think about all the different lives that people have lived. And it's nice to have that perspective and know that there's more out there in the world. I learned a little bit of that, being a Navy wife, but it's nice to get back to that, I guess I could say.
Yeah, so you are a librarian and you've always had this appetite for learning. And so let's go back to young DeDe and some of those kind of core memories around music and around learning when it comes to music. What are some things that stand out to you? We mentioned earlier that you took piano lessons and that you sang at mass, but are there some when you look back and you think, this is what helped shaped my love for singing?
Oh, maybe the earliest would be as a young teen when I found my mom's 78 records. It was Glenn Miller and Hoagie Carmichael, and I would sing along. Um, I loved that 40s music at the time. And then I got into, I guess it would be Americana and folk music. I'm not a rocker, although I've become one through Jeff Dawkins, bless his soul. But so those were, in some senses, easy sing-along music. And and then, of course, going in grade school, seventh and eighth grade, all the girls sang in the choir every day at Mass. And back then it was the Latin Mass. And so we were singing absolutely beautiful, basically choral music, Bach and Mozart. And although at the time I didn't know who they were, um, we didn't listen to classical music in my house. It was more country and folk and that sort of thing. So I got a little bit all along the way of these different strings and strands of music.
Mm. Now, when you found those records, did you like get the hairbrush and start performing DD in your house?
I don't know about the hairbrush, but I was in the basement. But but I was dancing around at the music and as I was singing for sure.
So you love classical music, right? Like if your beginning of your choral understanding was like the Latin Mass and singing Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, is that where your love of choral singing started? Was in some of those kind of major works?
Probably, probably. Um, um, I I was at an age when it wasn't daunting to sing that kind of music. Um, Rehearsals were around the organ with sister playing, and I was short, so I was one of the people right next to the organ, listening to all the chords and whatnot. And it was, but in my mind, it wasn't classical music; it was church music.
Mm,
So I didn't equate at the time that I was actually listening or singing great choral works.
And so you sang in high school. Did you sing in college?
No, I didn't sing in high school.
Oh, you didn't sing in high school.
No, I was on the college track, so I couldn't fit uh, music in.
And so choral singing stopped for you at a young age. And
Mhm.
did you ever pick it back up again until you found encore?
Not really, other than singing in church. But by then it wasn't in Latin, and it was fairly almost more uh, what do I want to say, Lutheran, in a sense that easily singable um, for a group. So that wasn't in my mind choral music either.
Yeah, as a lifelong learner, someone who loves to learn, is there a time when you could think about music, whether it was in church or whether, growing up, that that it taught you something, that you learned something, or maybe now in encore, that you felt like you really learned through the music, whether it was the words or the text or the history. Is there anything that's vivid to you?
Um, I think for me, the most interesting part, and this was as I, moved along in encore, especially I guess with the core works, but also with, the rock music, um, and to some extent the Broadway music, the stories behind the music,
Mm,
whether it were the composers or the lyricists, or the history of the time that the music was created. Um, this was information, I really didn't know until I got to Encore. So to me, it was fascinating to learn the background of the piece, not just the notes.
you talked about friendships was like a huge part of what you've experienced at Encore, and we, believe so much of our mission is about building community, and music is kind of our catalyst. It's our way of doing that. How has being a part of a musical community at any age in your life kind of changed the way you view relationships, either with yourself or with others?
For me, a lot of these relationships in Encore, almost all of them are long distance. And so I cherish them maybe even more than my neighbors or something like that. And I look forward to seeing who's going to be at the camp or on the trip that I already know, and who will I meet that is new and interesting. So I think it's almost like I have two different pieces of my life. I've got my family and the neighbors and friends I have in my small town, and then in a different sense, a wider group of people in Encore, that I maybe get to see once or sometimes, if I'm lucky, twice a year. And I cherish them so much because of that. When we see somebody we know from another time, it's like, oh, hello, hello, big hugs. And we catch up with each other and what's going on in our lives. And so it's something to look forward to, I guess, throughout the year.
Your voice got so excited when you said hello, hello. Like I think that brings up the memories of the many times you've been reunited with your friends at Encore in so many ways. So when we talk about music is so powerful in our lives, and it does help us, create memories, new and old. It really is something for me that's kind of soothing in my life when I'm stressed or whatever it may be. What is, how has music played a role in your life? Whether it's been navigating a major life transition, or has it been this community builder? Like, is there something that you could share with our audience about how music has been powerful in your own life?
Actually, joining Encore, my husband, shortly after we moved back to Minnesota in 2003, was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's.
Mm,
And by 2009, he was also paraplegic in a wheelchair. And by 2009, he didn't remember that he had an illness, and it was becoming dangerous for him to be at home. And he went into the VA nursing home. And so my good friend, Nadia Taryn, who is in Washington, D.C., and had joined Encore the year before, um, called me up early 2010 in the spring and said, DeDe, I'm in a singing group. And I said, you can't sing, can you? And she says, no, I can't. And she says, no, I can't, but there are no auditions. And it's at the Smithsonian and I can walk there. And I said something like, oh, I'd love to do that if I were still living there. And she said, well, they have camps. And there's one at St. Mary's in Southern Maryland. And your brand new grandson is only about an hour and a half away. And we could be roomies. So I said, oh, okay, sure, why not? So we did it. And I'm sure you've heard this from first time singers before, but it was totally intimidating that first day, because back then you didn't get the music beforehand. You got it
Right.
when you got there. And it was a small group because Gene was still building Encore. And uh, and the song, I had no breath control. I was nervous. And then we gave the concert. And oh my God, the endorphins that filled me afterwards with the experience, it was like, this is amazing. And then she called me up and said, DeDe, they have another camp at Chautauqua. And so I said, well, okay. Between those two, I was hooked. I was hooked. It got me through. Bill lived another year and a half. And so I spent my time at home, going 3 and 4 times a week down to the nursing home. And yeah, Encore got me through all that. And as you may know, Alzheimer's is a long, long goodbye. Excuse me, I'm getting a little emotional, but it's so when it's finally over, there's a whole different mix of emotions. And Encore got me through all that.
What a beautiful testimony. And thank you for your transparency and your beautiful, authentic spirit sharing that. That we've heard that from so many people, that Encore has come at the right time in their lives, whether it's losing a spouse or a job, transitioning to being retirement, or, there's just these life moments, and Encore kind of comes in and creates joy and community and all of these wonderful opportunities. And now we know even more in 2026 than we did in 2010, how powerful music is for our brain and for dementia. And that's why we have seminal journey singers, because we know that there's such great power in that. But thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad Encore was there when you need it and has been there, this whole time. You just shared your own story. What would you tell other people out there who maybe have never sung in a choir before? They love to sing, they're a little bit nervous, they're hesitant about trying something so late in life. What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. Well, at our ages, life is really short. Try it. If you don't like it, well then at least you tried. But if you don't try, how will you know? And there's such joy. I hope if I'm talking to someone like that I can communicate the joy that I have being a part of Encore. And hopefully that will nudge them along to give it a thought. And I might tell them that a simple way to start would be the summer singing program, or Encore University, where people are talking about music and or helping you learn how to use your voice. There are all kinds of ways to get started. that maybe isn't necessarily 15 weeks right off the bat if they're that hesitant.
And if you could sum up Encore, we have our vision statement and our mission statement and our values, but for DeDe Pruett's life, if you could sum up who Encore is to you in just a sentence or two, what would that sound like?
Just that, it's a joyful lifeline. Sometimes I can go and participate in the concerts, the semester concerts, because I have family in Maryland. But even without that, I have the online rehearsals and the wonderful people you meet there and the conductors. And it's just this beautiful lifeline that I hope I can keep until I die.
Well, you've heard it from DeDe. It's a joyful lifeline, and she's telling you, go out and try it. What do you have to lose? If you are 55 or older and you love to sing, find an encore near you or an online rehearsal, or join us through our Encore University with support from AARP. And DeDe, it was so wonderful to chat with you, and I'm so, so glad that Encore came into your life in 2010.
Me too. Thank you.
And friends, join us next time as we have more wonderful conversations about all the great things about Encore creativity next time on The Encore Effect.